October 13th, 2025, 3:42 a.m., 41 miles off the Venezuelan coast. The Caribbean was nothing but darkness. No horizon, no moon, just black water stretching forever. Then a U.S. Navy P-8. A Poseidon sliced through the night and spotted something that shouldn't have been there. A freighter, running cold. No lights, no beacons, no identification. A ghost on the water. The Coast Guard tagged it instantly. High-risk contact. Potential contraband. Intercept. By 4:12 a.m., the hunt was underway. Coast Guard cutters tightened a trap around the target, while a hit-run helicopter hammered through the darkness, closing fast on the ship's wake. The smugglers pushed their engines hard, carving a thin streak of white foam across the Black Sea, trying to disappear before they were pinned. Hit-run didn't give them the chance. A burst of precision fire shredded the freighter's stern. Metal tore apart in a shower of sparks as the propeller housing and rudder blew out. The ship lurched, dying in the water. The chase was over. When dawn broke, the freighter smoldered under the glare of American spotlights. But that ship was just the fuse. The explosion waiting behind it? You're about to see, just like, and keep watching. Same day, 7:25 p.m. Deep inside the White House Situation Room, the air was tight and still. Monitors hummed softly. One screen showed the seized Venezuelan freighter, still burning. Then the evidence arrived from the raid. 3.8 metric tons of methamphetamine, $62 million in marked U.S. currency, and encrypted drives tying the cartel directly into networks reaching across the Potomac. At Langley, CIA, analysts had been grinding for 72 straight hours. When they finally cracked the drives, the data told a story no one was ready for. GPS coordinates forming a triangle up the Venezuelan coast. Combining that with fresh SIGINT, the agency isolated 3 hot zones: a sugar refinery outside Puerto Cabello, actually a chemical processing hub guarded like a fortress, a hardened training compound north of Maracay, mercenaries and cartel enforcers drilling side by side, a communications relay in Caracas, camouflaged as a government warehouse, channeling encrypted payments through Hong Kong and Panama. Every site pulsed with activity: trucks, fuel convoys, armed escorts, all under official protection. The CIA called the network Red Vein. Its annual output? Over $1.2 billion in narcotics pouring into the United States. President Trump listened without looking away from the images. Every detail, every photo of trafficked workers sank heavy into the room. The message was unmistakable. Venezuela had crossed the line. Diplomats pushed restraint. The Joint Chiefs warned of escalation. The president's answer came cold and direct. You talk diplomacy while our kids are dying from their poison? We're done debating. If they use their territory to poison ours, then their territory is no longer safe. At 7:43 p.m., he signed the order Operation Iron Tide. In under half an hour, America went from caution to retaliation. Outside, the flag above the White House rippled in the night wind. Inside, the world's most powerful military had just been set in motion. Not for conquest, but for justice. The countdown had begun. 1:58 a.m. October 15th, 2025. Somewhere over the Caribbean, 3 B-52 H stratofortresses from Barksdale Air Force Base slid silently into their strike corridor, shadows against the clouds above them. 4 F-15E Strike Eagles from the 336th held high cover, locked, loaded, and ready to swat down anything with an AMRAAM the moment it appeared. 2:10 a.m. Puerto Cabello. Bomb bay doors open. 2,000-pound precision-guided JDAMs dropped into the darkness. Below, the target glowed bright red on live satellite feeds. The Tren de Aragua's primary stronghold, camouflaged as a sugar refinery. In reality, it was a 35-acre narco-industrial fortress. 80 guards, chemists, and hired mercenaries protecting 5 meth reactors capable of pumping out 2,500 pounds a week. 2:14 a.m. The first JDAM hit. A 2,000-pound shockwave tore the night open, turning sea and sky white. 2 more detonations followed, ripping through fuel depots and storage tanks until the coastline looked like it had been set on fire by the sun itself. Through the chaos, Army Rangers from the 75th dropped from 10 MH-60M Blackhawks, locking down the perimeter. Navy SEALs hit the southern warehouse under heavy gunfire, slicing through steel shutters inside. Rows of drums labeled agro-fertilizer hid pure meth oil worth over $400 million. The cartel's counterattack erupted immediately. Truck-mounted .50 caliber DSHK guns roared from the main gate. The Rangers pushed forward in wedge formation while two AH-64E Apaches rained 30mm fire that shredded vehicles like aluminum cans. Then a hidden ammo dump blew concrete slabs flew like flying cars. Flames swallowed an entire platoon. A Ranger squad was pinned behind a collapsed wall until a SEAL fire team slipped through a nearby canal and took out the gunners with quiet, ruthless precision. 2:29 a.m. Second wave AGM-158 JSSM missiles streaked inland from F-15Es offshore, hitting two secondary cartel hubs, a remote training center and a communications relay tied straight into a government facility in Caracas. Later analysis confirmed the transmissions connected to a Venezuelan intelligence officer on the cartel's payroll. Inside a hidden vault under the refinery, operators uncovered $62 million in cash, 7 encrypted servers and bank transfers totaling $480 million routed through Hong Kong and Panama. Then for the first time that night, the battlefield fell quiet. The compound that had roared with gunfire a half hour earlier now lay in smoking pieces. As dawn broke over the Caribbean, the radio crackled with two cold words: "Objective secured." Do you think the U.S. was right to launch a direct strike on Venezuela's cartel network? Drop your thoughts below. 10 a.m., October 15th, 2025, Caracas, Venezuela. The capital woke under a sky streaked with black smoke drifting from Puerto Cabello. The smell of burning fuel clung to the air. Inside the National Assembly, chaos erupted. State TV aired a shaking government spokesperson declaring the U.S. had committed an act of aggression. Within an hour, Venezuela demanded an emergency UN session. Government broadcasts repeated the same claim: American bombs killed civilians. But satellites told a different story. 3 surgical strikes, all on chemical facilities. Still, images of fire on Venezuelan soil were enough to ignite national outrage. Crowds flooded Caracas streets, chanting against Washington within 24 hours. Meth prices in Colombia dropped 47%. Caribbean trafficking routes froze. Tren de Aragua's empire collapsed from the inside in Washington. The Pentagon released only a carefully worded statement: a counterterrorism operation against transnational criminal infrastructure. Privately, officials confirmed $480 million in cartel funds traced to accounts belonging to Venezuelan generals and senior ministers. The world responded fast. Russia condemned the strike. Iran promised retaliation by other means. Europe called for restraint, but notably, no one outright condemned the U.S. in the global underworld, however. America suddenly had fans. News anchors spoke of sovereignty as cameras showed smoking ruins along the Venezuelan coast. The narrator's voice dropped low. In politics, lines are drawn in ink. In war, they're redrawn in fire. For Venezuela, it was a diplomatic crisis. For the United States, it was a message. The world now understood. When America's patience ends, justice doesn't come in a letter. It comes from the sky. Hit subscribe, because this conflict is far from over midnight. October 15th, 2025, Caribbean Sea. The water was calm again, the night's violence fading into morning mist. Far off the coast, U.S. destroyers drifted like dark shapes under the rising sun. Overhead, the 3 B-52H bombers banked west, heading home to Louisiana. Mission complete, but the aftershocks had only just begun. Below them, the wreckage of Tren de Aragua's empire burned quietly. Warehouses reduced to ash, signal towers collapsed into the sea, and black smoke rising from what had once been the cartel's most powerful stronghold. Inside the command ship USS Wichita, intelligence teams worked without pause. From the rubble, agents recovered 7 encrypted servers, 2.4 terabytes of financial intel. What they found wasn't just cartel bookkeeping, it was the blueprint of a $4.8 billion criminal empire, backed by 17 Venezuelan officials, private cargo firms, and foreign arms suppliers. For the FBI, the case instantly shifted. This wasn't cartel business anymore. It was government crime. By 12:30 a.m., the data streamed into Quantico and Langley. A digital map lit up, red lines snaking from Panama, Curacao, and Hong Kong straight into the Venezuelan Ministry of Transport. Each connection made the truth unavoidable. The network the U.S. had struck wasn't a rogue syndicate. It was state-engineered corruption. In Washington, President Trump studied the report in silence before finally speaking. This is why we act first. Evil hides behind diplomacy. At the same moment, CNN aired the fiery wreckage. Analysts argued legality, allies hesitated, but the criminal underworld got the message instantly. Trafficking routes from Central America to West Africa went dark within 48 hours. 5 major banks froze Venezuelan accounts, and U.S. synthetic drug inflow dropped nearly 30% overnight. Yet victory came without celebration. 4 American soldiers clung to life. Venezuelan civilians fled burning villages. On the deck of the USS Wichita, Navy SEALs watched the sunrise in wordless reflection. As the Caribbean brightened, the message was unmistakable. America had redrawn the map of fear. The ocean remembers who it takes and who it spares, and in that memory lies a warning. Corruption, no matter the flag it hides behind, will eventually face judgment from the sky. Operation Iron Tide wasn't vengeance, it was resolve, a line drawn in fire, and a promise. When evil rises again, America will be there to meet it. It reminded the world why the U.S. Armed Forces remain a pillar of global stability, not simply because of power, but because of principle, a refusal to let corruption thrive behind borders, politics, or fear.